Hey, welcome back to the channel. Lately, I haven't really gotten a chance to finish my Legacy set review series, and I put out the last minifigure review last week, and this is mainly due to the airing of Season 10 and Season 11 leaks already. But yeah, so I did want to finish this series with the minifigure reviews, and we'll be taking a look at today the Ninjago Legacy Antagonist minifigures. So yeah, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Skullkin minifigures. And yeah, so we do have Crunch as minifigure here. And I think the torso is fine. I like the red sash with the Skullkin, with the Skullkin symbol on the bottom. I think that does look pretty cool. The torso itself is relatively simple. I mean, there's nothing really that unique about the torso. There are some of these dot patterns up here, which is fine. I mean, it's nothing much. And something to note here is that the old Skullkin minifigures had boots. This one just shows their foot. And the armor piece is different too. I think this is the first time they've used this particular armor piece in Ninjago, and I will say that it does look pretty cool. It's nicely designed, this armor piece. It's very simple, but it is nice. I did prefer the old Skullkin pieces with the spikes, the big ones with the spikes. And yeah, they were oversized, but I think they were definitely a little more unique, and they were more unique to the Skullkin themselves. Now, my biggest problem with the Skullkin minifigures is the head, and I really can't express how much I dislike these, really. I mean, I think the molding is fine. If you look like from the side or the back, it kind of looks like a normal head, right? But then you have the Skullkin, you have this part here, which is almost like a mask. And my problem with this isn't the molding. I mean, you gotta admit, the original Skullkin really did have oversized heads. And I'm gonna say this again. My problem with this is not the molding. It's the printing and the way they handle the printing. I think the eyes are, for the most part, fine. Although, I guess they could have done a little more. They could have made the pupils a bit bigger. Or, yeah, I mean, that would have been nice, but not a big problem. The nose is also fine for the most part, but my biggest problem is the mouth and the lack of detail, really, on this face as a whole. And, yeah, the mouth, don't even get me started. I mean, I think the big problem with this mouth is that it is essentially expressionless. It's supposed to be baring its teeth, I guess, but to me, all that I really see is, like, it just sticking its teeth out as if it's, like, smiling for a photo or something like that. It does not look intimidating. It does not look cool. It's very disappointing, honestly. And, yeah, again, I don't think there's really much detail with these minifigures at all, with these heads. And, I mean, the original Cruncha had a monocle, and the original Whiplash also had a worm on the back of his head. And those were all really cool details. They were very tiny details. You could even argue irrelevant, but I think they were cool. And they were different between these heads. They distinguished them and made them different from each other. But all in all, this Cruncha minifigure is pretty disappointing. And sadly, it does get worse with Knuckles minifigure. So again, the torso's fine, the armor's fine. This weapon, I think it's a nice choice of weapon. And his head and hair is the big problem of this. I think this mouth is even worse, considering it just looks like he's smiling for a photo. He's not intimidating, he doesn't look angry. And that just looks really bad. I do like this eye patch and how this is a nice throwback to his original minifigure. But again, the hair, I mean, why even? It's a mohawk. It's a tan mohawk. I don't even understand. The original Knuckle had, like, these tan spikes, and they look pretty cool for the most part. It was a nice design choice, but I don't even know what they're doing. Are these supposed to be spikes? Is it supposed to be hair? Either way, this Knuckle looks like a rebellious rock star teenager, and that is really bad. I don't like what they've done with this at all. They've turned Knuckle, who was a Skullkin general, and he was always a funny character in the show. He wasn't supposed to be serious, but this is crazy. They took his spikes and turned it into a mohawk. I don't even know why they thought this was a good idea. And then we do have Whiplash, and the biggest problem with Whiplash here is a lack of bringing something new to the table. Whiplash is just made up of pieces from Cruncha's new minifigure, Knuckles' new minifigure, and of course the Sensei hat. And, yeah, again, the problem here is they didn't bring anything new to the table. I think the problem with Whiplash's minifigure especially is this face. I think his old face printing was really cool, especially with the worm in the back. And there's just nothing here. I think it would have been really cool had they made entirely different face printing for Whiplash. But yeah, so I'm really underwhelmed by the Skullkin minifigures. But I'm happy to say that it gets much better with the new garment on minifigure. And this is honestly one of the highlights of this wave for me. I really love how it did stay true to his original 2012 four-armed minifigure. It uses the same mold with the same, very simple armor piece. That is really cool. Now, underneath, actually, and I'm going to remove this, underneath here, this is actually the same printing that they do use on his newer minifigures, but they made the sash purple, and that's a really nice, it's really cool how they made it stay true to his original design, his original purple sash. I like that. But the main highlight of this minifigure would have to be his face printing, which is all new, it's brand new, and I think this is some of the best face printing we've ever seen for any Garmadon minifigure, including the movies. And yeah, the movies printing sucked for his face, and I think it's definitely good that they're including this, and I hope they use this face in the future if we get any more evil Garmadon minifigures. I really like how his fangs are bared, his teeth are bared, very reminiscent of Oni Mustake from episode 92, and looks really cool. He actually looks intimidating. Doesn't look like he doesn't look slack-jawed. His mouth doesn't look like randomly open. He doesn't look crazy like he did. He doesn't look like he just came back from the bar like his face does in the Lego movie sets, in the Lego Ninjago movie sets. I mean, and it's really cool. And just a small thing to note, they did, I think black is also another dominant color throughout this. They made his helmet black, and that's fine. I don't really care if it's black or gray, but it is pretty cool. Now, the Stone Army Scout here, I do like this minifigure for the most part. This printing on this torso is very nicely designed. I like the whole armor kind of feel with it, and it feels very nice. Even these little gray pieces here, that looks cool. And it does come with the quiver. I'm not really a big fan of the black on black. It would have been a little bit more of a contrast had they used the red quiver, like they did use that with his original minifigure. And yeah, his face printing is really cool. I like the idea to use teal this time around. I think that's great, honestly. Now, as for the Sensei, as for this hat, and it's not even a Sensei hat, really, they did use this with the Heavy Metal minifigure, and to be honest, the hat itself is pretty bad because it casts a shadow onto the face. So if I'm holding it like this, you can't really see the face that well. If you take it off, everything's fine, but if you put it back on, it casts a shadow across the face, and you can't really see it as well. And I don't like that. I liked it with the original minifigures, you were very easily able to see their face. And yeah, I mean, it's just not really as good. But lastly, we do have the Overlord minifigure here. And this minifigure is really cool. I don't think it's better than the original Season 3 minifigure. But in this minifigure's defense, that original Season 3 minifigure is really hard to beat. That's an incredible minifigure. It's one of my favorite minifigures to date. But that being said, this minifigure is actually really cool itself. And I love what they've done with it. I really love the idea to kind of make a minifigure out of the Overlord spirit form. I think that's a great idea. They did this with this transparent tail, and that is very cool. I like the purple and black design. And even underneath here, this torso itself is very simple, but really nicely designed as well. I like the purple hands, and even on the back, I think it's really cool. Very simple, but it's really cool, actually. And his torso extension is very cool as well. It's the same mold as the movie Garmadon one. And I think it's done very, very nicely. I really like how it is very reminiscent of his Season 3 minifigure torso with the golden armor and these spikes kind of going back towards it. And of course, some purple stuff in the background here. Very reminiscent of that, and I think that's cool. It's a nice little throwback. His head, though, is really, really cool. It is transparent, and I like what they've done with it. I like how his teeth are yellow, and that's very cool. And his eyes, there are no pupils, just like his last one as well. And that is very, very cool. Just like his last one, his last minifigure's head, both of these heads are very haunting, very, very intimidating, really scary. And that's really cool. And he comes with the helmet of shadow as well, like Garmadon's helmet. This one is in black. So yeah, these are my thoughts on these minifigures. And here are the Serpentine minifigures. I have mixed feelings on these. I think it was a good move to use the same molds for Lashka's headpiece, and of course Pythor and Spida's headpieces. It was a safe move, but I think it was definitely good. And yeah, we'll talk about Spida first. Yeah, so I don't really know why they wanted to include 8-pack abs on Spida. It's weird, it's not really appropriate. Again, I'm glad they stuck to using his original head and all of that stuff, but he kind of looks like a lizard trooper, and yeah, I think the sash is a nice little detail, and I like all the scales. I like the dark green, but I really love the old Venom Army minifigures. They were really cool. I like the red vials. They were a nice contrast to the green, and this just isn't really capturing it. It has shades of yellow and brown, and, I mean, the original one had shades of red, so, I mean, that was a lot better. On the other hand, we have Lasha, who is an abomination. I think the problem with Lasha is his eyes are too far apart to the point where the upper eyes are kind of under the headpiece. The headpiece is kind of lacking some printing, but that's fine, not a big problem. His torso is a mess, really. It has these 6-pack abs, And even with the Venom bottles, they have these skull symbols on them. I really love the old vials of Venom, the ones that were just yellow, or not yellow, red, I mean, and they were really cool, actually. I loved what they did with those old ones. They just looked really cool, and you didn't really need a skull symbol on them to make it so that it was poisonous. And I think that was done really well on the last one, and it's just not capturing it here. Again, his head is also, the face printing is really bad. I don't like what they did with his tongue. It just looks like a mess, and then his nose and his eyes are way too far apart, and his torso is kind of a mess. It's just not really that good. Pythor, luckily, is pretty good for the most part. Not better than the original Pythor one, but I think it is pretty good. I like his neck. I think the printing on the neck is better. There's just a little bit more detail. I like what they did with the blue gem. They kind of expanded it, added some more detail. His torso's not as good as the original one, but still good. I mean, they still have his black arms. I mean, I don't know why they wanted to do that. I mean, they had a chance to correct it, but they decided not to. I mean, I think with this new torso, he kind of has a snake belly now. But I did like the old one better, but I think this is good too. These Stone Armory warriors are cool too. I've already talked about the torso, so I won't talk about that again. But I will talk about the leg printing, and I think the leg printing is really phenomenal, actually. It is better than the original leg printing of the original warriors. And this is really cool. I like what they did with it. I like the belt and all the details below, the armor continuing down. It's really nicely designed. I will say, though, I did like the armor of the original Stone Army Warriors a bit better. This is a very simple armor piece. It's good, but very, very simple. And the Stone Army Warriors are supposed to be, like, big and strong. And that old armor was a bit better. It was a bit bigger. It was a bit buffer. And it was better in that sense. Now, again, I really do like the idea of exploring new colors for the face. It looks really cool, both of these guys. The warrior has the teal face, and the swordsman has the yellow face this time around. That's cool. And again, I've already talked about the hat, the swordsman hat, so I won't talk about that again. Little complaint for the warrior one. I don't really like the use of the standard mouth guard here. I think it would have been better off if they had just used the original Stone Army Fang mouth guard from the original wave. I think that one was really cool, actually, and it would have been a much better decision had they just reused that. But yeah, I do think these Stone Army minifigures are good for the most part. Not better than the original one. I like the torso of the original ones better. And they had better hat pieces as well. But yeah, I mean, I think these are pretty good too. All in all, the Legacy Wave, for the most part, I have mixed feelings about the Antagonists. I sadly do think that all these armies are downgrades when compared to the original ones. But I, for the most part, like the Stone Army one. I despise the skeletons. And I think the Serpentine are okay. But luckily, I really like the ones for the main bad guys. I think Pythor, Overlord, and Garmadon are really great. Their new designs. But yeah, those are my thoughts on these Ninjago Legacy minifigures. Let me know what you guys think of them in the comments sections below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone you know, and I will see you next time.